The conference room went silent. James Park, the man worth $12 billion, the tech giant who had built Korea's largest AI empire from nothing, grabbed his chest and collapsed face first onto the mahogany table. His coffee cup shattered. Papers scattered. 20 executives froze in horror. Someone screamed for help. Within minutes, paramedics rushed him to Seoul Memorial Hospital, the most expensive medical facility in Asia. By the time they got him into emergency, his heart rate was dangerously low. His skin had turned an odd grayish color. His breathing was shallow. Dr. Kim, the hospital's chief physician, ran every test imaginable. Blood work, CT scans, MRIs, toxicology screens. Everything came back inconclusive. James Park was dying, and nobody knew why. Welcome back to the channel. Before we continue with this incredible story, I need you to do something for me. If you enjoy these emotional, real-life stories that remind us miracles can happen anywhere, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This story will teach you that the answer to your biggest problem might come from the most unexpected person. So stay with me till the end. Now, let's get back to it. Daniel Park sat outside his father's VIP room, his head in his hands. At 27, he'd always seen his father as invincible. The man who'd survived poverty, business rivals, market crashes, and still came out on top every single time. Now, he looked so small in that hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped with alarming irregularity. "Mr. Park?" Dr. Kim approached with 3 other doctors behind him. Daniel stood up, searching their faces for hope. He found none. "We've consulted with specialists from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Tokyo University Hospital. We've run every diagnostic test available. Your father's organs are shutting down, but we cannot identify the cause. It's like nothing we've ever seen." Daniel felt his knees weaken. "There has to be something. Fly in more doctors. I don't care what it costs. We have. Sir, 7 of the world's leading diagnosticians are reviewing his case right now. But I need to be honest with you." Dr. Kim paused, his voice dropping. "Without knowing what's wrong, we can't treat it effectively. At his current rate of decline, your father has maybe 48 hours. I'm sorry." The words hit Daniel like bullets. 48 hours. 2 days. His father, the only family he had left since his mother passed 5 years ago, was going to die, and the best medical minds in the world were completely helpless. That night, Daniel refused to leave the hospital. He sat in his father's room, watching the monitors, praying for a miracle he wasn't sure he believed in anymore. Around 11 p.m., he stepped out to get coffee, his eyes red from exhaustion and tears he tried to hold back. Meanwhile, across town, Jane Morrison was having the worst day of her week. Her best friend Maya had called her 3 hours ago, practically in tears. "Jane, please. I'm begging you. My sister is in labor, and there's complications. I need to be there, but if I miss this shift, I'll lose this job. It's just one night. Just one cleaning shift at Seoul Memorial. Please," Jane had sighed, looking at her tiny apartment that doubled as her research lab. Botanical samples covered every surface. She'd been running tests all day for her startup company, trying to develop natural medicine alternatives. Money was tight. Really tight. "Maya, I have so much work to do here. I'll pay you double what I'd make. Please, Jane. You're the only person I trust." So, here she was, at midnight, putting on a cleaning uniform that was slightly too big, pulling her long braids into a bun, and reporting to the night supervisor at one of Seoul's most prestigious hospitals. The supervisor barely looked at her, just handed her a cart of cleaning supplies and a list of rooms. VIP floor, rooms 701 through 715. Keep quiet. Don't bother the patients. Don't touch anything except what you're cleaning. Jane nodded and pushed her cart to the elevator. She was stunning, even in the oversized uniform. High cheekbones, warm brown skin that seemed to glow even under harsh hospital lights, and intelligent eyes that noticed everything. At 25, she'd already earned a degree in ethnobotany and was working on groundbreaking research into medicinal plants. But tonight, she was just trying to help a friend and make enough money to keep her research going one more month. Room 701. She knocked softly, heard no response, and entered. The room was dark except for the glow of medical monitors. A man lay in the bed, unconscious, looking incredibly frail. Jane began her work quietly, emptying trash, wiping surfaces, mopping the floor. She'd almost finished when she heard voices outside the door. His liver enzymes are still climbing. Kidney function is at 35%. We're losing him, and we still don't have a diagnosis. The frustration in the doctor's voice was clear. What about autoimmune disorders? Rare infections? Another voice, younger, desperate. That must be family. We've tested for everything. It's like his body is being attacked by something we can't identify. All we can do is manage symptoms and hope we figure it out before his organs fail completely. Jane continued cleaning, but her mind was racing. She'd heard those symptoms before, in her research. Organ failure, no clear cause, rapid deterioration. She moved closer to the bed, and that's when she saw it. Under the medical lights, the patient's fingernails had an unusual greenish-brown discoloration at the base. Most people would miss it. Most doctors would assume it was just bruising or poor circulation. But Jane had spent 3 years studying plant toxins and their effects on the human body. That discoloration was specific, very specific. Her heart started pounding. It couldn't be. That toxin was rare, found only in certain plants in Southeast Asia. But the symptoms matched perfectly. Progressive organ failure. Mimics natural disease. Nearly undetectable in standard toxicology screens. Jane stood frozen, mop in hand, mind racing. She was a cleaning lady. Who would listen to her? But if she was right, this man would die without the specific antidote. She thought about walking away, finishing her shift, going home. It wasn't her business. But then she looked at his face. Somebody's father. Somebody's loved one. She made a decision that would change everything. Daniel was slumped in a chair outside his father's room when a young black woman in a cleaning uniform approached him hesitantly. "Excuse me, sir?" "Active." He looked up, exhausted. "Yes? I'm sorry to bother you, but I overheard the doctors talking about your father's condition. I think I might know what's wrong with him." Daniel stared at her. Was she serious? You're a cleaning lady." "I am tonight. Yes, but I have a background in ethnobotany and toxicology. When I was cleaning your father's room, I noticed something on his fingernails. A very specific discoloration. Combined with his symptoms, I believe he's been poisoned by a plant toxin called dendrochnide moroides compound. It's extremely rare. Comes from a plant in Southeast Asia. It's so subtle that it mimics natural organ failure. Standard toxicology screens won't detect it." Daniel stood up slowly. This was insane. But something in her eyes, the confidence in her voice, the specific details she was giving, it made him pause. "Why would you know about something like that?" "I run a botanical research company." "Well, I'm trying to. I study medicinal plants and natural toxins. I've published 2 papers on Southeast Asian plant compounds. If I'm right, your father needs a very specific antidote, and he needs it soon, or his organs will fail completely." Daniel studied her face. Every rational part of his brain said this was crazy. But desperation makes you consider impossible things. "Come with me." He marched to the nurse's station with Jane behind him. "I need Dr. Kim. Now." 5 minutes later, Daniel stood in a consultation room with Jane, Dr. Kim, and 3 other specialists. Doctor. Kim looked annoyed. Mr. Park, we're doing everything we can. We don't have time for— Just listen to her, Daniel interrupted. Jane took a breath and explained everything again, more detailed this time. The fingernail discoloration, the specific pattern of organ failure, the toxin's properties, how it would be missed in standard tests. The specialists exchanged glances. Miss, with all due respect, Doctor, Kim said, his tone condescending. We have 7 world-renowned diagnosticians on this case. You're suggesting we've all missed a poisoning? Yes, Jane said firmly. Because you weren't looking for it. This toxin is designed to look like natural illness. It's been used in Southeast Asia for targeted poisonings for decades. Most victims are declared dead of natural causes because nobody thinks to test for it specifically. This is absurd, one of the other doctors said. We can't just take the word of a cleaning person who thinks she knows better than trained physicians. Then, test for it. Jane shot back, her voice rising. Run a gas chromatography mass spectrometry test, specifically looking for dendrochnide compounds. It'll take 2 hours. If I'm wrong, you've wasted 2 hours. If I'm right, you'll save his life. The room went silent. Daniel turned to Dr. Kim. Do the test. Mr. Park, this is highly irregular. My father has 48 hours to live, and you've admitted you have no answers. Do the damn test. Dr. Kim's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Fine. But when this comes back negative, I want her removed from this hospital. The next 2 hours were the longest of Daniel's life. He sat with Jane in the waiting area, and they talked. He learned about her research, her dreams of developing affordable natural medicines, how she'd come to Korea 3 years ago for a research fellowship, and stayed. She learned about his father's journey from poverty to building a tech empire, about losing his mother, about the pressure of living up to an impossible legacy. Why did you speak up? Daniel asked. You could have just finished cleaning and left. Jane was quiet for a moment. Because I could help. Because staying silent when you know something feels like being part of the problem. And because everyone deserves someone to fight for them, even if that someone is just a cleaning lady who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Daniel found himself staring at her. She was beautiful, yes. But it was more than that. There was something about her presence, her conviction, her courage to speak up when everyone else would have stayed quiet. Doctor. Kim appeared in the doorway. His face was pale. The test came back. She's right. It's dendrochnide toxin. Modified variant. I've never seen anything like it. How did you know? Jane stood up. How long until his organs fail completely? At current progression, maybe 18 hours. But we don't have the antidote. It's not something we stock. We'd have to source it internationally. And even then, the National Botanical Research Center, Jane interrupted. 15 minutes from here. They have a toxin research department. I consulted for them last year. They'll have the antidote compounds needed. Call Dr. Sarah Chen. Tell her Jane Morrison sent you. She'll know what to do. The next few hours were chaos. Phone calls. Emergency authorizations. A midnight drive to the research center. Jane went with them, explaining to Dr. Chen exactly what was needed. The antidote was synthesized and rushed back to the hospital. At 4 a.m., they administered it to James Park. Within an hour, his vitals began to stabilize. By morning, he was breathing easier. By that afternoon, he opened his eyes. Silence. The 7 international specialists reviewed the case in disbelief. James Park was going to live. And it was all because a cleaning lady happened to notice something everyone else had missed. 3 days later, James was sitting up in bed, weak but recovering. Daniel had told him everything. About Jane, about how the doctors had dismissed her, about her knowledge and courage. "I want to meet her," James said, his voice still raspy. "I want to thank the woman who saved my life." But when they went to find her, Jane was gone. She'd finished her shift that night and never came back. The hospital had no record of her. She'd been filling in for someone else. "Find her," James told Daniel. "I don't care what it takes." It took 2 weeks. They finally tracked down Maya, the regular cleaning staff member. When they explained what happened, Maya's eyes went wide. "Jane did that? Oh my God. I just asked her to cover my shift because my sister was having a baby. I had no idea." She quickly gave them Jane's address and phone number. The next day, James and Daniel showed up at a small apartment in a modest neighborhood. When Jane opened the door and saw them, her eyes went wide. "Mr. Park. You're okay." James Park, worth billions, who'd met presidents and tech giants, bowed deeply to her. "Because of you. You saved my life when no one else could." Jane invited them in. Embarrassed by the mess of her research materials, they sat in her tiny living room, and she made tea. "Why didn't you come back to the hospital?" Daniel asked. "We wanted to thank you. I was just helping a friend with her shift. I didn't expect any of that to happen. And honestly, once I knew you'd be okay, I just wanted to get back to my work." She gestured at her makeshift lab. "I'm behind on my research deadlines." James looked around at her setup. The plants, the equipment, the notebooks filled with observations. "Tell me about your work." For the next hour, Jane explained her research, how she was trying to develop affordable natural medicines for communities that couldn't access expensive pharmaceuticals, how she was studying traditional healing plants and identifying their active compounds, how she'd almost run out of funding 3 times, but kept going because she believed in it. James listened intently. When she finished, he said, "I want to invest in your company, properly fund your research. You saved my life with this knowledge. Imagine how many others you could help with proper resources." Jane's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Park, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. And please, call me James." Over the following weeks, the investment was finalized. Jane's tiny startup suddenly had state-of-the-art lab space and a real team. But something else was happening too. Daniel found reasons to stop by the lab almost every day. To check on the progress, he said. To make sure everything was going smoothly. But really, he just wanted to see her. Jane noticed. She'd be working on a sample, and she'd look up to find him watching her with this expression she couldn't quite read. They'd have lunch together, talking about everything from science to childhood memories to their dreams for the future. She was cautious. They came from such different worlds, but she couldn't deny the connection she felt. One evening, as they were closing up the lab, Daniel finally said it. "Jane, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that night at the hospital, the way you spoke up when everyone else would have stayed quiet. Your passion for your work. The way you see the world. You're incredible." Jane's heart was pounding. "Daniel, I'm not sure this is a good idea. Your father is my investor. You're from a completely different world than me. My father told me something last week," Daniel said, stepping closer. "He said that night taught him that value doesn't come from titles or money or status. It comes from character and courage and knowledge and heart. He said, you have more of all those things than anyone he's ever met, including him. And I agree. Daniel, I'm not asking you to have all the answers right now. I'm just asking for a chance. Dinner tomorrow. Just us. Let's see where this goes." Jane looked into his eyes and saw sincerity there. She thought about that night, how she'd almost stayed quiet, how speaking up had changed everything. Maybe this was another moment to be brave. "Okay," she said softly. "Dinner." His smile was brilliant. 6 months later, James Park stood at a podium at the Asian Business Summit, addressing thousands of entrepreneurs and business leaders. He was completely recovered, healthier than he'd been in years. The investigation had revealed that a business rival had been slowly poisoning him through imported tea, a sophisticated attempt to make his death look natural. The rival was now in prison. "I've built a $12 billion company," James said into the microphone. "I've been called a genius, a visionary, a titan of industry. But 6 months ago, all of that meant nothing. All my money, all my success, couldn't save my life. The world's top doctors couldn't save my life. You know who did? A 25-year-old woman who was working as a substitute cleaning lady that night to help a friend. She had the knowledge, the awareness, and most importantly, the courage to speak up when everyone else stayed silent." He paused, looking into the audience where Jane sat next to Daniel, their hands intertwined. "That experience taught me something crucial. The answer to your biggest problem might not come from the expected source. It might not come from the person with the most impressive credentials or the highest position. It might come from someone you'd never think to ask. Someone you might even overlook completely. My advice to every leader in this room is this: stay humble, keep your eyes open, and never assume that the person in the expensive suit has more valuable knowledge than the person mopping the floor. Jane Morrison saved my life because she noticed what others missed. Now, with proper support, her research is developing medicines that could help millions. All because one night, she chose to speak up." The audience erupted in applause. Jane squeezed Daniel's hand, overwhelmed. After the speech, dozens of people approached them, wanting to hear the full story, wanting to invest in her research, wanting to collaborate. As they drove home that night, Daniel looked over at Jane. "Crazy how one moment can change everything, isn't it?" Jane smiled, thinking back to that night, when she'd stood in that hospital room with a mop in her hand, seeing something no one else saw. "You know what the craziest part is? I almost didn't say anything. I almost just finished cleaning and left. But you didn't. No, I didn't. And I'm glad." "Me too," Daniel said, bringing her hand to his lips. "Me too." Jane Morrison had gone to that hospital, expecting to spend one quiet night helping a friend. Instead, she'd saved a life, changed her entire future, and found something she hadn't been looking for at all: love, opportunity, and the proof that sometimes the most unlikely person in the room is exactly who needs to be there. The cleaning lady who saved a billionaire's life became a millionaire herself through her research company. But more than that, she became proof of something important. Your value isn't determined by your job title or your bank account. It's determined by what you know, what you do with that knowledge, and whether you have the courage to speak up when it matters most. Sometimes the miracle you're waiting for is already in the room. You just have to notice it. And sometimes, you are the miracle someone else is waiting for. You just have to be brave enough to show up. If this story touched your heart or taught you something valuable, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me what lesson you took from this story and where in the world you're watching from. Your support means everything to me. I'll see you in the next one.